Hi everybody, I'm back here at City Cigar Garage, National Headquarters. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what you saw in the last few videos when we were at Silver Dollar Raceway in Reynolds, Georgia. What happened with Larry's car, what you were seeing in the video, probably not even realizing it, and how it all went for the weekend. You try to give everybody who isn't a drag racer a little bit of an explanation. Like I say, this is the national headquarters and or the second floor of my shop. Shop is down there. We're up here. This room used to be like a typesetting room for a newspaper. It was the first newspaper in Portland, Indiana. And my wife and I, with the help of my brother, remodeled this place. That's my little office over there where all my brainstorming goes on. So I'm gonna sit here and talk to you a little bit about what happened, okay? Turn the camera around and talk. Okay. It's a Saturday morning, sitting here having a little bit of coffee, thinking about what happened after we got home. We got there Friday morning hoping there would be a test and tune, and it was cold and track wasn't prepped. Great people, track owners, track operators were great people doing their best to get it going, and we found out that there had never been any cars down the track this year yet, which in that sense, you need cars down the track to put rubber on the track. So there wasn't any rubber out there. It was green from, the rain and whatever happened through the winter to those people. So it wasn't optimal conditions. Track temperature, they told us, was like 60 when we went out for our first round of qualifying, which is really super cold for that type of car. Typically, they don't want to make traction. There had been a few cars down the track in front of us that went okay, but they were set up pretty soft. And being that we'd never really been in eliminations with this car, we didn't know where to start. This is the first, SEGA car that I've ever built. Adjustable clutch. I've built a lot of stuff that didn't have adjustable clutches in it. This thing here, it's a whole different beast. 400 horse small block with a Muncie 4-speed. Pretty easy to put them together, but this thing here, there's a lot to it. So we got the car warmed up Saturday morning, scaled it to make sure it weighs right, because it's C-gas, and let me explain the gas classifications before I get into C-gas, is they're based on weight per cubic inch of the engine. Larry's car is a C-gas car, which is 10 pounds per cubic inch. That means that for every cubic inch of the motor, there has to be 10 pounds of weight in the car. So not added, but the total vehicle weight. I believe B gas is 8 pounds per cubic inch, and then A gas is 6 pounds per cubic inch. And you've seen the exhibition vehicles there. I don't think I got any of them videoed in there. They were part of the first video, but you didn't get to see them run. I think it doesn't really matter what they weigh. But they have another class that's H gas, and I think it's 13 pounds per cubic inch. It's like Volkswagens and 4-cylinder cars and 6-cylinder cars, stuff like that. So, in this type of car, it's pretty hard to get it to weigh that. You think about it, that Falcon, when we finished it, weighed 2,200 pounds. So with a 299 cubic inch small block Chevy in it, which is the motor that it has, it needed to weigh 2,990. That's adding a lot of weight to the car to get there, but we got it. Added weight in the front, added weight in the rear to try to balance the car out. Typically with that type of car, you want it a little nose heavy. Percentages, were 52% on the front end when we were done, I believe, just to keep it from popping giant wheelies. You're limited to the wheelie bar length, which, if the car had a longer wheelie bar on it, you could do whatever you want to, but per rules, you're 42 inches from the axle center line. And that's one of the things when you're building a car you need to watch for. What can you do when you're building a car? We specifically built this one around the SEGA rules, where it couldn't have coilovers on it. It's got race shocks and stuff like that, AFCO shocks is typically what I use here. And we use coil springs in the back that we had gotten from Speedway Motors on an adjustable coil spring jack that was like something they built for circle track cars, and it worked awesome. Anyways, so we're running a C-gas car. We go out there for the first round of qualifying, and the car spins. The thing that I saw was that the car went straight down the track. We've not run the car before, you know, other than Larry made some test tests with it down there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, before he went over to Reynolds, Georgia. And the thing that I saw, being a chassis tuner, is the car spun, but it went straight down the track, which is awesome. Some of the videos, and I didn't get real, you know, to me, I'm just not a fan of showing people almost crashing. So there was a lot of guys in the group that didn't go down the track very well. There's 15 cars. We qualified 6 in the first hit, which I think is pretty darn good for a car that's not been out yet. Qualifying 6, Larry was upset when he got back because the car did spin, but I told him, I says, everybody in the group spun because of the track conditions, because of the temperature. So, to try to fix that problem, what we did is we looked back at what happened. Larry had the launch RPM too high, which you control with your foot. This thing doesn't have any electronics in it other than a line lock, which holds the front wheels locked when you're doing your burnout and when you're staging the car. That's the only thing you can have in the car, and you can have a rev limiter to keep from over revving the engine, which is a good thing for a new driver, because you can really hurt stuff if you didn't. So some of the cars that I've had previously have had magnetos in them that no way to limit RPM or anything. It makes it a little bit tough. So we realized he launched a little high, so we decided for the second qualifying run that we'd lower the launch RPM just by, you know, not revving it up so high when you stage the car. Probably notice that the RPM in the car is real high when he stages it, because you're trying to set that before you bump in, you know, that way you hold your foot still on the foot feed, and, you know, when the tree comes down, you let the clutch out and mash her to the floor. Basically is all you do with these cars. Larry's car spun a little bit, so we figured that out, and my thoughts also were just to loosen up the rear suspension to try to plant the tires a little better to see if that might help any because of the cold conditions. And we also lowered the tire pressure down some. We were running 11 pounds, which everybody said is what you're running those tires with those cars. So we sat around. Took them a while to get to the second qualifying run, and you have to make a qualifying run in each lane so that you can gather points, because they give you points per qualifying and plus per round win. So we go up for the second qualifying run, and the track seems a little bit better, but what we'd found out was sun came out on the track and was warming the track surface up and making water come up through the track down in the middle of the end of the 8th mile mark. So not good. They spent a bunch of time trying to vacuum that up. You know, we got a late start doing that. So the car leaves well, but in that point, what happened is Larry left at too low of an RPM. He left at 6,000 RPM instead of 6,500. The car didn't bog, but it didn't 60 foot like it should. It didn't run the first 60 foot of the race, we should say, or the qualifying run like it should have. It was a little slow there, which in turn makes the car slow. In the end, there were some other cars that went down the track good. Some of the hitters went down the track good, and he ended up qualifying 9th. Our thoughts were we'll leave a little bit higher RPM and leave the shocks alone, because I had to loosen the shocks up. And then what we would do was just put the air pressure back in the tire. So by the end of B gas, we had 2 cars crash. It's out there in YouTube video land too. So We got through qualifying and they decided to call it a day because it was too dangerous. And I mean, you could hear the wind blowing. The wind was blowing 25 miles an hour. It was a tailwind, fortunately. If it was a crosswind, we could have never went down the track. But that wasn't helping anything. And of course, in Larry's qualifying run, because of the water on the track, he had to lift down to the end. You probably heard, me say in the video that, oh yeah, he was really driving that one. It's because he ran through water and he had to press into clutch. He got over close to the center line, but with his experience driving, he knew what to do. So saved the day, got the car back to the trailer in one piece. And again, the car didn't spin that time. It went straight down the track. Some of the things that I've told you in my shop relate to the car going down the track right. When we got it all done, we double checked all of our measurements, putting it back together finally, squaring the rear end in the car. It's like I said in previous videos, if the rear end's not straight in the car, this type of car anyways, you're not gonna go straight down the track. I've seen that so many times, setting up cars for guys. They call me and I've got 4 turns of preload in it and it won't go straight, and they bring it to me and the rear end's a quarter of an inch out of square in the car. Super important to make sure you get all that stuff right. Within a 1/16 of an inch for newbies. As you see, I use lasers down there, but you can do the same thing with a string. There's times I have to use a string as well, but anyways, part of what I was seeing was the car going straight down the track, wasn't doing anything dumb. Car was driving good at the finish line. I always ask that question, how did it feel down there when you get on the brakes? Because what you do to the chassis to work in the starting line can affect you adversely at the finish line. If you go cranking a bunch of preload into suspension components to get the car to go straight, when you hit the brakes down at the other end, it affects the car oppositely. So if the car was pulling to the left really bad and you put a bunch of preload in the left side to get the thing to go straight, when you go down to the finish line and hit the brakes, if that problem still exists, you hit the brakes and the car's going to pull to the right real hard. So the car drove smooth. I watched the tires. If the front tires are scuffing a little bit, you can see that right away. The little mold hits and stuff wear off the tires. When we got done with Larry's car, like I say, this thing had 9 runs on it. The mold hits are still on the tires, so it's tracking right and steering right. The Ackerman in the front end is right. I build different control arms for the front end versus the stuff you can buy from Speedway Motors, because there's no Ackerman geometry in that stuff. Important when you're driving a car. Going straight down the track is great, but if you got to turn it, you get a little bit out of control and got to steer it. It needs to steer right. You look at all that stuff. I'll explain, a lot of the things that I saw, or I see when I build these things later on when I'm working on the front end of this Henry J down here, why I do what I do. So Saturday, after they get done with qualifying, they call a driver's meeting and told us that because of the wind, because of the temperature, they're just going to pull a plug on Saturday, and we're going to stay over Sunday and get the race in, because pretty far south, we had about, I think there was like 56 cars there totally when we were done. You could say there was 15 in SEGA, and Larry ended up qualifying 9th. So he had to race the flower power car. We go up Sunday morning, they call Superstock up, and the flower power car heads to the lanes right away, so Larry's going to be one of the first pair out. And I didn't share this video because it wasn't worth watching. So I go up to look at the starting line to make sure the track looks okay, that everything looks good for Larry, because he rolls up there in the car, you can only see so much. You're thinking about going down the track, you're not thinking about, is there a bald spot out there in the starting line, do I have to move to the left or the right, something like that. Some drivers do, but brand new car, jitters, it's just better to have a second pair of eyes there, somebody to put you in a water box, which was Linda was doing that, and the girls there were getting them on the starting line like they wanted to. So first pair of cars leaving Superstock, tree doesn't fire on the right side of the track. So we sat there for 3.5 or 4 hours while they changed sensors and they changed computers and everything else, and couldn't get it working. So So they decided, because of the amount of fans there, that they would do flag drop. Just somebody would stand out there with a flag and send them down the track to give the fans something to see. But since that doesn't tell us anything, you know, tuning wise or anything else, we decided that just best to head out, because Miss Linda had something going on when she got home, and I was 13 hours from home, so I needed to get back here and get to work. So that's what I saw. I just thought I would share that with you. Next race they're going to do is going to be at Shady Side, which will be a bunch of cars, and I think Larry might go to that one. I won't go. I've done my job. The car goes straight down the track. That's what I wanted to make sure. I will try to go to some of them, but because I enjoy that racing. I enjoy all kinds of racing. The group that I'm in is the Scott Rod's Gasser group. We run AA supercharged cars. There's, I think, 20 guys in the group, but it ends up like 8 or 9 of us seem to go to all the races, and you know, it's a good time. I have a lot of fun with those people, and you know, see what happens this year. Take Big Red out. I'll share some videos of Big Red at the track, and I've shared some of them in my earlier stuff, so see what happens. Like right now I've got Skylar B's Camaro down there on the lift. I'm just starting tin work today. We redid the back half in the car. The chassis was well built, but everything else was sort of done bad, so we cut it all out, and new rear end, new wishbone, anti-roll. And now I'm getting ready to start put the wheel tubs in it today. So I'll be down there by myself, contemplating life, contemplating what happens here at City Garage. Or our City Garage, I should say. Can't even get that right. It's early. I'm just in my rambling. Just wanted to give everybody an update of what I saw and how things worked. By the way, the car was extremely well received. They weren't happy with the color of the front shocks. They were the AFCO blue color and wanted us to change that. But other than that, the car passed tech with flying colors. So followed the rule book, did what I was supposed to do, and they were all happy. Like I say, we're just having fun here. I'll share more soon. It'll be more technical stuff. So I'll get back on that rant. Thanks for watching. See ya.